Hey guys, how's it going? So I decided I'm going to try something new and you'll have to bear with me on this, but with this whole quarantine thing going on, a lot of us are staying home and cooking and trying new things. I decided, hey, let's go through some of my old family recipes that have been passed down for many years and see if I can actually make them and try them and see how they are. I'm part of this amazing Facebook group that is actually the sister group of the original, which is GAA, Genealogy Addicts Anonymous, and the sister group is for family recipes, vintage recipes and recipes that have been passed down through generations. There have been so many wonderful recipes that have been shared in the group, and that was giving me the idea also to let's give this a try and see what we can come up with, because I definitely have some cookbooks and recipe cards that have been passed down to me from my mom and my grandma and my auntie and other family members. So today we're going to tackle the recipe called Gooey Butter Cake. Have you heard of it before? It is a St. Louis staple, that is for sure. If you're out anywhere in the United States, probably a good chance you haven't heard of Gooey Butter Cake. I know that other big name chefs have actually tackled this recipe before, such as Paula Deen and Martha Stewart, but it has originally come from St. Louis, and I want to tell you a little bit of the history first before we get into it. So I looked this up online so I could actually try to get the genuine story, but would you believe there is no actual proof backing up the genuine stories that are floating around? So I'm just going to share with you what I have found and what I do know. So this information comes from Richard Danzer, and he is actually related to one of the people who helped create this recipe. So I'm going to read something for you from What's Cooking America. In late 1942 or early 1943, Johnny Hoffman of St. Louis Pastries Bakery was working on a Saturday and made what eventually turned out to be gooey butter cake. It was a complete mistake. He subsequently called Herman Danzer, this guy's dad, the one who submitted the story, and told him he thought he might have something, and asked him to come to the shop on Spring and Gravway and see if they could duplicate it. So they worked all Saturday, and through many trials and errors, they got it pretty good. The final batch they made, his dad suggested that they add glycerin to it to make it really gooey, and it worked. Whereupon his mom, Melba Danzer, came into the shop from the store to see what these two guys were doing. Well, when she tried it, she said, "This sure is gooey," and subsequently the name, Gooey Butter Cake. So the information that this man has is from his mother, who worked with his father for many years, from 1939 to 1957. And so they really don't have any way of backing up this claim. He says his mother did not save any of the recipes, unfortunately, to prove the origin, but that is his story. And that is just one of a couple that actually are floating around to say that they are the originators of this gooey butter cake. So the recipe actually that I have comes from my grandma. I found it when I was going through some of her old recipes that my mom had given me, and it's actually written in her handwriting, and I keep it on, this is just a copy. I keep a copy of it on display in my kitchen up on my wall. I've actually shown you my wall before in my kitchen dining room area. And so I decided, hey, you know what? Let's give this a try. This is her recipe that she wrote out. Why not? Now, I am by no means a professional chef. I am just a regular cook in the house. I don't do anything special. And so I'm just going to be doing my best to follow this recipe that my grandma has left to me. So bear with me as I do this. This is the process. You're going to see me do it from beginning to end and to the point where I'm actually going to taste it. And we'll see how it is. So You know what? I'm ready. Let's get started.
Now this picture here shows everything that you will need to complete this recipe. Ingredients will include a box of yellow cake mix, 3 large eggs, a stick of butter unsalted, 16 ounces of powdered sugar, an 8-ounce block of cream cheese, and some grease or non-stick spray for your pan. Now other items that you will need to complete this recipe include, but not limited to, a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, 3 mixing bowls, a hand mixer, a spatula, a scale to measure your powdered sugar, a sifter, a plastic sandwich bag, and I'll explain why, and some spoons. Now you can use a collection of your own items that work out best for baking or whatever, but this is what I used. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is grease your baking pan. Now, this is what the plastic bag is for. This is a trick that my mom and my grandma taught me. You put the bag on your hand, and then you take your grease, like Crisco, and you scoop some out, and then you just take it and spread it around your glass dish or whatever dish that you're using. And be sure to get it everywhere, and including all the corners, very well. You also want to get up the sides of the dish because the gooey butter cake is going to bake up pretty high, so you want to make sure nothing sticks. Now, if you'd prefer to use a baking spray like Pam, very welcome to do that. I just prefer to use Crisco. Once that's done, put the pan aside and you're going to start mixing your ingredients. First, the crust. You're going to take the softened butter and put that in the bowl first. And you got to make sure it's softened because it will not mix very well if it isn't. So you add the butter, then you're going to take 1 egg and you're going to crack it and put it in the bowl with the butter, and you're going to mix those very well together with your hand mixer. The word to use is cream. You want to cream these very well together before you add in the cake mix. Once that is all creamed together, just stir it around and make sure that everything seems to be incorporated together. Then you're going to take your cake mix and just pour it into the bowl with the butter and the egg. And this is what the spoon is for. You take your spoon and you're just going to stir it until it's all mixed up together. It's going to take a little bit of time, but once you're done, it's going to look like this. Just make sure everything is all nice and wet. Then you're going to bring your pan back over and you're going to pour this crust into the pan. Now this is where it's going to get fun. You get to use your hands. Now you're just going to take that crust, like basically when you're making a pie, you're going to press it down into your pan. You're going to spread it around as many places as you can. Make sure that it's nice and even all the way around. And you even want to push the crust up a little bit on the sides to kind of create a little bit of a lip. So it may take a little bit of time, but just keep pushing and pressing and spreading until it's nice and even. And then once again, when that's done, just set it off to the side. Now it's time to make the gooey butter filling. Now the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to measure your powdered sugar. On my grandma's original recipe, it said 1 16-ounce box of powdered sugar. Well, I didn't have a box of powdered sugar, so I took my scale out and then took another bowl and decided to just measure it that way. So you want to measure out 16 ounces of powdered sugar, just perfectly. There we go. And maybe a little more. Yeah, that's right. Then you're going to take that and you're going to set it aside. Now it's time to open up the softened cream cheese. And again, you want to make sure this is soft because it's easier then for you to mix the eggs with the cream cheese. So you put the cream cheese in the bowl first. Just drop it right in. Then you're going to take the 2 remaining eggs and crack those in with the cream cheese. Then once again, you're going to take your hand mixer and you're going to mix them up until they are nice and creamy all together. Shouldn't take very long before it looks like this. You just want to make sure that everything's mixed very well. Then, once that's all done, it's time to put in your powdered sugar. Now, I suggest adding the powdered sugar a little bit at a time, because if you've messed with powdered sugar before, it is a mess and it goes everywhere. It's worse than adding flour to a recipe. So I started by adding just a couple of spoonfuls to start, and then I mix it up and make sure it's all incorporated really well. Then once that is done, then I will add in some more powdered sugar. And you'll continue doing that until you use up all of the powdered sugar. Now once I got to a certain point, I couldn't use the mixer anymore because it got really gooey and thick, so I had to start using the spatula. So pour the rest of the powdered sugar in and then just stir it up really well and make sure that there's no white showing of the powdered sugar. You want it all mixed together. It might take some time and it might be a little tough. I didn't realize how out of shape I was from stirring until I started making this, but look how gooey this is. Oh yeah, that's the perfect consistency right there. And you see all of the powdered sugar is mixed in. There we go. Next, we're going to pour in the mixture on top of the crust that we already have in our pan. So just take it and pour as much everything in that you can, and then just start spreading it out with your spatula. Get all the way to the edges. And make sure then it's all even everywhere. Oh, doesn't that look good? Yep, just make sure everything is spread around. Make sure it's not too high on one side and make sure it's even, especially through the middle. And you take it, shake it up a little bit, and there you go. You're ready to put it in the oven. So you're going to put it in the oven at 350 degrees for about 40 to 45 minutes, mostly until it's kind of golden brown on top. So here we go. All right, I cooked it for about 43 minutes, and oh, doesn't that look gorgeous. It's nice and golden, especially around the edges. Oh, and it smells so good too. Oh, I wish you could smell this. Now, while it's still warm, you're going to want to put some powdered sugar on the top. You're going to take a bowl with some leftover powdered sugar and a sifter. And then you're going to take it and you're just going to tap the sifter to put the powdered sugar on top. Now, this is up to you how much powdered sugar you want. If you want a lot or if you want a little, completely up to you. But you want to do this while this is still warm. So once that is covered, you are pretty much done. Now you just got to let it cool. Yes, you have to let it cool. Oh, I tell you, the hardest part was sitting there waiting for it to cool before I had to cut it. But you don't want to cut it too soon. So once it's cooled down for a little while, now you're going to take it and you're going to start cutting your squares. And don't be afraid. It is going to be gooey. So just because, you pull your spatula out and you can see that there's some pieces of the filling attached to it, that is a good thing. That doesn't mean it's undercooked. So don't worry about that. See, it's so gooey. Now this is the fun part. Getting that first piece out was always difficult. But there we go. There you are. There's your gooey butter cake.
Wow. That wasn't so bad, was it? Well, at least I didn't think it was, although I was getting a little bit worried about how gooey it was getting there and if I was really doing all this correct, because I've never made this before in my life. I've seen my mom make it, I've seen my grandma make it, but we're talking, it's been a good 15, maybe, longer years since I have seen them make it or even tried homemade. So here we are, we've got it right here, and I haven't had a bite yet. I was waiting for it to cool, so here we go. We're gonna give the first bite and see how it came out. It looks really gooey. Oh my goodness, look at this. It looks and oh, it smells so good. It's got such a vanilla flavor because of the cake that you use as the base. So here we go. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Oh, it is so gooey. and it's still warm, which is the best way to have it. Oh my gosh, the center is just, can you see? I don't know if you can see how gooey this is. Look at this. But, oh, I think this is definitely a success. Oh my gosh, this is totally gonna wreck my diet. Now, the recipe that my grandma used calls for, as you saw, the cake mix on the bottom. And there are other recipes out there on the internet that actually call for different ingredients and they make it different ways. And, you know, I wasn't trying to, you know, find the, you know, the best recipe. I just wanted to make the recipe that I knew my grandma made that she left behind for us to have. So that's what this one is here. And if I do say so myself, it's delicious. So good. You know, you guys are gonna have to try this because it's delicious. But anyway, thank you so much for sticking around with me and, you know, going through this journey of making this with me. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. And if you enjoy seeing me do stuff like this and trying recipes that are my family's recipes, then, you know, leave some comments down below and tell me what you think. Anything you think I should change, should add. Not to the recipe. I'm not changing the recipe. I'm talking for the videos themselves. But if this is something that you think, you know, is going to be interesting, sure, tell me down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and, you know, maybe we'll continue to do this while we're still in quarantine. You know, I've still got a lot of recipes that I can go through. So, again, if you like it, let me know. But otherwise, for now, we'll see you later.